Listen, y'all, I know I typically record in my office on Wednesdays, but baby, today, listen, I had to break out my student loan check, the fan, because today I was like, I'm going to have to wait till I get to the home office because it's about to get real. Wait a minute, I need a blazer. Look, I had to break out the blazer, okay? Listen, you couldn't tell me that I was not in court today, front and center. Let's get into this thing. But before I get started, I want to ask, Mr. Chief Justice, will it please the court if I ask the constituents to subscribe to my YouTube channel? So in case you've been under a rock and you don't know what I'm talking about, February 28th is the first day that the Supreme Court is finally hearing student loan forgiveness arguments. So also, if you don't know, you can listen to it via CNN. That's where I listened to it today. And it was, pretty easy to follow, pretty easy to understand. And it was fun to listen to as well. But let's get into this thing, y'all. So one of the major things that was really happening today is that the court is trying to really establish standing. So what does standing mean? Standing basically means that the opposing side has a leg to stand on to say that, hey, this student loan forgiveness that Mr. Biden is doing is unlawful. So that was a lot of what was happening today. The court wanted to determine this standing to see if this case is something that needs to go forward or if it needs to be dismissed. Let's get into the opposing side and what's really happening there, right? What is the opposing side saying is the reason that Mr. Biden has overstepped his presidential authority? Because there was a lot of talk there. Y'all drop down in the comments and let me know the attorney who's on the opposing side, his name, because I couldn't remember. And listen, he was doing his thing. He was trying to state his case. Now, it was nothing compared to Miss Elizabeth, and we will get there shortly. But here were the main points that he was making. First and foremost, Mohila is going to lose money, right? He's like, it's going to cut their revenue by 40%. It's also they're going to be charged a fee per discharged account, and it's basically going to cause an undue burden on Mohila. So that was the first thing, right? Here's the second thing that came up as a rebuttal by the Supreme Court. They said, hey, wait a minute, where is Mohila? Why are you suing on behalf of Mohila? And number one, you don't have any of their documents. They have not released that. In addition to, we don't sue for other people in this country. As a state agent, Mohila has the authority to come here and to state their case themselves. So he says, yes, I do understand that. However, we do have the authority to do this because the state of Missouri has interest in this case. Listen, the SCOTUSes were scolding, okay? They were grilling him. They were like, no. Why are they not here? So the opposing side says, wait a minute, there is a legal case that has done this before. So he kind of goes into citing a case where this has happened before. And I got to pull out my notes, y'all. So he began to cite the Cherry Cotton Mills case. So he's saying, hey, in the Cherry Cotton Mills case, they basically did this same thing where they sue on behalf of someone else. The SCOTUSes are pushing back. They're saying, but wait a minute, Mohila is a state agent. Why are they not here? So he steadily is citing this case, but they not going for it, y'all. Here's another point that he brings up as well. Got to get back to the notes. So he says, wait a minute. Also, not only are they going to be losing money, right? Mohila is going to be losing money. He's citing this fund. He's citing the Lewis and Clark fund, saying that they owe over $100 million to this fund. This is going to be due next year. They're not going to be able to pay into this fund if their revenue is cut. So the SCOTUSes push back again, y'all. They say, wait a minute. Okay, you keep talking about this fund, but is there going to be some undue burden, put on them because they can't pay into this fund? Can't you just postpone it? And he says, well, yeah, you could, but, and it's like, nah, player, you ain't winning this one. Now, here's another point from the opposing side as well. So what they're saying is that Biden acted outside or beyond his presidential authority because he is making a modification to the HEROES Act of 2003. So remember, on the defense, they're saying that, hey, the president has the legal ability to do this based on the HEROES Act of 2003 that basically says, in the occurrence of a pandemic, the president can act by discharging loans and things of that nature. So the opposing side is saying, wait a minute, no, he's not doing that. He is modifying this law. So the SCOTUSes kind of ripped into him with that as well. They're like, modifying, could you explain that a little more? That's where he kind of goes back into citing various cases. And it's like, I don't know, y'all. So let's get into what the defense is saying, y'all. Now, I don't know the guy's name who's arguing, on behalf of these two folks who are suing, and on behalf of Mohila, but I know the advocate for the people name, y'all, Miss Elizabeth Prelogger, and I hope I'm pronouncing her last name correctly. Let me tell you, she was ready. Listen, she did this like it was nothing. You can tell she is a very seasoned attorney. She had her things together. When they pressed her, she was truthful, but she also went into citing the reasons why the president can do this. Y'all, listen, in my opinion, she need to run for president. Listen, you got my vote, Miss Elizabeth. So there were several important points brought up by the defense. Okay, so Miss Elizabeth got right into it. She's citing the HEROES Act of 2003. She said that, hey, there is power in emergencies. The president, the Secretary of Education, they have the power to do this. One of the things that I like, they pressed her on this, right? They said, hey, why can't we just continue to forbear, right? You're citing the HEROES Act. You're citing the economic downturn because of the HEROES Act. So why can't we just keep forbearing? And she said, hey, because that is not the ultimate answer. So let me go to my notes. So she actually said that doesn't solve the issue of economic harm, right? As y'all know, inflation is a mess right now. Things are high. Eggs, $15. Listen, it's real out here in these streets, right? And that's true, right? This does not, forbearing does not fix the issue at hand, y'all. Also, she talked about the HEROES Act as well, and Congress making a choice over loan repayment, right? So the opposing side is saying, hey, the president can't do this because Congress has not had a vote in it. She's saying, no, wait a minute. They did have a voice when they okayed the HEROES Act of 2003. That was Congress having their voice. So that was something that I thought was very interesting, right? Because that's what this whole thing is about. Oh, he didn't submit, he didn't post this to make it public so that there could be comments by the public so that Congress could have their input. But Miss Elizabeth is saying, wait a minute, when they made the HEROES Act in 2003, Congress agreed to that. So that was where they had, their stake in the fight. Listen, Miss Elizabeth had it together. The Supreme Court justices, as well as Miss Elizabeth, they talked about that there is evidence that folks will default on these loans. We already know this to be fact, right? First-time college students, minority college students, Black women, we are some of the most highest holders of student loan debt. So they're saying, hey, there is evidence that people are going to default on these loans at a much higher rate based on this economic downturn, because it's already happening. All of that stuff is already set in place now, right? This was another thing that came up. So this was by one of the Supreme Court justices, and he gave this example, right? He said, well, the folks, they are citing that this is not fair, that everybody's not being provided with the same opportunity. So he gives the example of two students who go to college. One decides to take out a student loan because they don't have enough money. The other one decides to start a lawn care business to fund his college, right? The lawn care business guy comes out with no student loans, but the person who chose to take student loans due to their financial situation, of course, they leave with student loan debt, right? So he pitches this to Miss Elizabeth, and he says, what about that person? They did what they were supposed to do. They worked hard. They paid off their student loans. They chose to start a business, right, to take care of their college expenses, but this person didn't. So where is the fairness in that? Why does the lawn care person have to basically pay for this person's student loans via their taxes? Listen, Miss Elizabeth said, I'm hearing you, Mr. Chief Justice, but when the HEROES Act of 2003 was signed off on by Congress, it was not written for the lawn care people of America. It was written for those who took out student loans. I was like, listen, Miss Elizabeth, let's go, let's go, let's go. So let's get back into the opposing side, right? So this is a takeaway that I had to write down. So I don't know all of the Chief Justices' names, but of course I know Miss Honorable Jackson. Yes, ma'am. Of course I know her. So she kind of pressed the opposing side. And what she was asking him, and I had to look at my notes for this, y'all, but what she was asking him was basically, if you can't prove your case, why are you suing on behalf of Mohila? Because you really can't provide evidence that there's going to be some type of financial burden on Mohila. They ain't here, and they have not released any documents to you, y'all. This man said, because it's our only shot. She said, wait a minute, sir, that's not helping your case. And the other Chief Justices kind of chimed in too. So I was like, listen, I guess he had just had enough at that point. But yeah, that's not helping your case, sir. You gotta come with something. But that was a major takeaway that I noticed. So this was something else that the Chief Justices really pressed the opposing side on. So in case you don't know, the opposing side is suing on behalf of two folks who are saying that, hey, we have student loans, but we're not going to qualify for the $20K forgiveness. It's not fair. One person has $17K in student loans, and then the other one has 30 to $35 in student loans. So basically the SCOTUSes were kind of pressing him, and they're saying, what is stopping people, anybody, from being able to say, hey, I want to sue because I didn't get the student loan forgiveness, and I deserve it. So the opposing side did say, hey, this is only affecting people during this time period. So I'm glad that he did clear that up, because there was a lot of talk about, well, what's going to stop the next person from suing? You have to have, and I can't remember the word that they used to describe this, but basically you have to have been someone who would have been affected by this during this time period. So I like that they brought that up, because that was a worry of mine too. We just gonna keep suing and suing and suing, but they have kind of already shot that down that, hey, listen, we ain't gonna hear it, okay? So don't even try it, y'all. The closing arguments, listen, Miss Elizabeth shined in the closing arguments, y'all. She kept saying my friend. So every time they would summarize their case before going on to the next point, she would say my friend. And I was thinking, who is she talking to? And then I realized, oh, she's talking about the opposing side. I was like, yes, my friend. I'm gonna have to start using that, because let me tell you, baby, he ain't no friend. He is not no friend to the people at all. But she ended her closing argument with saying, my friend over here is basically trying to smuggle in these frivolous, lawsuits to stop student loan forgiveness from happening for the people. I was like, yes, Miss Elizabeth, he's a smuggler. That's what he is. He is a smuggler. He is no friend of mine. So the cases ended today with a wrap up of both sides stating their cases to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court said, thank you very much. We will reconvene at 10 a.m. tomorrow, which will be on March 1st at 10 a.m. Y'all be sure to tune into my channel. Listen, I am going to be providing you with the latest updates, and I want to know, drop down in the comments and let me know, what do y'all think is going to happen? I'm going to be honest, after listening today, I was very hopeful for the people. Listen, y'all see me fanning with my check, baby. I'm ready to call out of work and go cash that sucker, okay? So Miss Elizabeth, we are rooting for you. We are all rooting for you. Drop down in the comments and let me know your thoughts on this whole thing. And in the meantime, check out my playlist on all things student loans. Bye.